gustaría preguntaros es ¿qué es lo que podéis adelantar a los fans de la serie que les espera en esta nueva temporada?
I look to you because you're the desert woman.
I am the desert woman.
No, but I mean that dominates 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
like there's a whole host of new characters, and what they bring is very unique to this season, and that's very exciting. I think the complexity of the mystery is like another level to what we've done before as well, not just because it's a standalone thriller in itself, which is brilliant, exciting, especially with all these new characters, but because it's tying up all the loose ends or the storylines of Maggie and Arthur from season 1 and season 2, and there's Rachel who came in season 2 and her storyline, and so the complexity of those people's lives along with all these new characters, there's a lot to come for the audience.
I can add, yeah. I think in the world of television today, it is very rare for a series to complete 3 seasons. It's an achievement. And for us, when we started The Head, which was supposed to be a limited series, to be at this point right now, sitting and talking about the 3rd season is almost like beyond a dream. But when we got the opportunity to do the 3rd season, for us it was a chance to close the story, to end the trilogy, to complete the story from the moment of when we started it up to the end. I think if you'll get to the last episode of season 3, you will see that we came back to the exact point where the story has started. So for us it was to really, as Katharine said very well, to close the threads, to close all the arcs of the main characters, of the main rivalry, and to bring an end to that story. So I think for the fans, for the ones who watch season 1 and 2, season 3 is unmissable. You have to watch the end. It's like reading a book and leaving it in the middle before the conclusion. So by all means, I think it gives you the last part of the story and what we feel about it, so it's worth watching.
I think it's interesting because 3 also shows that no matter what you do or how you try and get ahead or how you try and deal with your enemy, you've got to be very, very careful that you don't become you don't become like the enemy. I think by the end, of 3, it's very interesting because you have 2 characters who started out, as Ram said earlier, poles apart, who actually are standing very, very close together and are very, very similar, even though one of them is dead. But in terms of tying everything up, actors don't often, or writers or directors or producers often have a chance to kind of complete a world. And that's what we did with this. We felt that we completed it, didn't we? We got to, to say everything we needed to say.
You know, in The Head, when we count the episodes, we keep counting them. So actually, you're just watching episodes 13 to 18. It's not season 3, episode 1, it's episode 13. For us, it's really a long story, a long movie that we're telling you, and we're giving you a break of a year between them so you can take a breath and come back to it.
¿Cómo ha sido para vosotros el rodaje en España? ¿Qué creéis que pueden aportar las localizaciones y el talento español delante y detrás de las cámaras a series internacionales como esta?
I mean, we've had some incredible Spanish actors in our cast. We've Avron, Jovic, Enrique, and obviously Clara, which is a joy. She's amazing. So, yeah, that's been a really important part of it, and getting to know people that work here and working with the crew. The Spanish influence and the Spanish heart is really there for this.
Well, we're Celts, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're Celts, so we get on very well with Latin, with Spanish. We have a similarity, we have a common enemy. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But I mean, there's a sensibility that I feel in Spain. I mean, I'm half Italian as well, so I have that in my blood too. But I feel very comfortable in Spain. I love working with Spanish crews, Spanish actors. There's just an openness about the work. There isn't kind of a series of doors you have to go through. Sometimes with other actors, you have to open one door and another door and go, is it okay if I take the third door? With Spain, it's like direct, emotional and present and immediate, and I love that. Yeah.
And we had Jorge Dorado obviously guiding us from season 1 to 3, and it's a very unique situation to have the same director carry the whole story. Like, I don't know any other show really that's done that. So to get to work with an incredible Spanish director like Jorge is a privilege.
I think many people who watch The Head have no idea it is produced in Spain. None of the locations that we shoot are what we say they are. So Spain has been Antarctica and the Pacific Ocean and the desert in Africa, but we never had a location which is really Spain. We had Ireland and other places, but it was never Spain. But I think, at least from my point of view and my eye, it looks very Spanish in style. There's a style in Spanish TV making that Jorge brings with him that is something about the art of how the scene looks, the art of how the camera moves, and how everything is done in details, which I think is part of the magic of this series. But at the same time, for us, it is an English-speaking series to be on every screen in the world. And most viewers do not care who produced it, although it was made, I think, with the best professionals that are here in Spain. So we feel privileged to export this thing all over.
En la nueva temporada, algunos personajes aceptan una oferta para que experimenten con ellos para un nuevo avance científico. ¿Hasta qué punto creéis que somos capaces los seres humanos de perder libertades por dinero, ya sea por necesidad o en busca de una mayor comodidad?
It's one of the questions. It's one of the themes of the seasons. What are people willing to do for money? And as you will see the series, each person has a completely different reason for why he decided to join this. Some it's a family issue, for some it's a money issue, for some it's ideology, and for others it may be even darker than that. For us, the introduction of those human guinea pigs was the new element of the series. We never had anything like it in seasons 1 and 2, and we enjoyed having 5 characters that come, by definition, for different motives. And in a show where you suspect everybody could be the killer, that's a great playground to play with. As we do in The Head, each of them came from a different country, from a different culture, and then the reasons are connected to where they came from. But the guinea pigs, Clara is one of them, bring a new light to the show. They also help us to introduce younger characters, which was harder in seasons 1 and 2 because we needed professionals who work for years until they become seamen or scientists. But human guinea pigs can start at a young age. And I think both Clara and Rico, the Japanese character, Keiko, they introduce something new to The Head, which is a bit of humor, a bit of lightheartedness, and even comedy in this darkest hours, which is the new thread that comes into season 3.
Your question also makes me think about the reason that the trial is there in the first place, which is to help solve climate change. But the real motivation, I believe, for Lauren, who's the sort of financer of the project, is to profit off of it. And I think it's an interesting mirror to how climate change has come about anyway, which is people making money off of the backs of millions of others and at the sacrifice of most other people on the planet, the 1% who do most of the damage. And I think it's interesting to watch the inverse of that, where supposedly what they're doing is positive, but the fact that it's illegal and the potential harm, it doesn't necessarily come from a good place. And whether it's good or bad it's not a judgment that the show makes, but I think it's an interesting element of the show.
It's also a bartering tool, isn't it? The environment and who has control of the experiment, who has control of the mission, who has control of the project. And that goes back and forth through the series. And that kind of has an importance too. The actual, whether that's sort of out of a love of the environment or if that comes from a love of self or the need to have a legacy or the need to have, certainly for Arthur, I think it's a mixed bag. I think maybe he started out believing that he could change things and that the environment needed to be, as it does need to be, our behaviour towards it needs to be rectified. But I think all that got lost somewhere. And that got lost in his own hubris, and it got lost in his own greed and his own ego and his own... Arthur, I don't think, is driven by money, but he realises how much it oils or greases the wheels of what he needs to do and what he needs to be about.
You know, when we started doing the season, it was before Elon Musk and Neuralink and all these things that are supposed to change our lives for the better, for the worse, we don't know. But I'm thinking about, I was reading just the other day the difference in the time the dinosaurs were here and the time that human beings are here. We are here for what, 20,000 years, and dinosaurs have lived for 3 million years. And during those 20,000 years, we are struggling to remain, and then somebody says, I have something that might make us live for millions of years. And then you ask yourself, as a person, do I even have the right to say no to something like that? But I think all of us were given just one life, not millions of years. And for each person to decide whether I'm willing to risk that for the lives of others is a very, very big dilemma. And I think that's what stands in the cornerstone of those 5 characters when they come into the desert. What they will see there will be much more complicated than they think. But the dilemma was there from the beginning.
George Carlin said, the comedian, American comedian who's dead now, said that the planet isn't the problem, it's us. He said, you know, the planet, at one point, the planet's just going to shake us off like a bad dose of fleas. And I love that image, you know. But I think it's true. You know, we worry. But we're the problem. We need to look at ourselves and how we are towards each other, but also the planet. The planet itself, left alone, it's a perfect system. It's a perfect self-perpetuating system. It's us who are the problem.